Have you ever felt like your life is stuck in a pattern you didn't choose? Anger you can't control, habits you can't break, dreams you keep postponing to someday. You promise yourself, from tomorrow, I'll be different. But tomorrow comes, and you're the same. If that feels familiar, then listen carefully to the story of the samurai who almost threw his life away, until an old monk showed him a path so small it looked like a joke, a path of 1% that changed everything. In the late days of a long war in Japan, there lived a samurai named Christopher. Among his clan, they called him Kitaro, but the foreign merchants who passed through the port had once misheard his name, and Christopher stuck to him like a nickname he couldn't shake. He was known for two things: a sharp blade and a temper sharper than steel. On the battlefield, that rage made him fearless, but in times of peace, it made him dangerous. To everyone around him, he drank too much sake. He gambled away his pay in noisy inns. He shouted at his wife for small mistakes, ignored his son's questions, and broke anything he couldn't control. But what hurt most was not the cups he smashed or the doors he slammed. It was the day his little son stopped running to the gate to greet him. One evening, Christopher came home drunk. The sun was melting behind the tiled roofs, and the cicadas screamed in the trees. He walked through the courtyard, armor half unbuckled, expecting, as always, to hear tiny footsteps rushing toward him. Silence. He turned his head and saw his son in the corner of the yard, practicing with a wooden sword alone. The boy glanced at him, hesitated for a heartbeat, then looked away and continued training. No smile, no shout of "Father," just distance. Christopher felt a sting in his chest, but pride wrapped quickly around the wound. "He'll understand when he grows up," he muttered to himself. He went inside, poured another cup of sake, and drowned that moment under the burning liquid. Weeks passed. His habits grew heavier. He overslept and missed drills. His strikes during practice became slower. At night, he lay awake, staring at the wooden beams above him, feeling an invisible weight pressing on his chest. One morning, after a night of drinking and gambling, he received an order. The lord of the domain wanted all samurai to attend a ceremony at a mountain temple. A famous monk was visiting, a man known as Yamamoto, a former healer of warriors. Some called him doctor, others called him saint. Christopher scoffed. What can an old monk tell a man who's seen blood and death? But the order was clear. He had to go. The path to the temple was steep. The stone steps climbed like a dragon's spine up the mountain. Christopher's breath soon grew heavy. His legs burned. He stopped often, pretending to admire the view so no one would notice his exhaustion. He watched older samurai passing him with calm, steady steps. He cursed under his breath. By the time he reached the top, his heart was beating like a war drum, his clothes damp with sweat. The temple courtyard was simple: a stone lantern, a single cherry tree, wind chimes whispering in the breeze. In the inner hall, they all knelt before an old monk in faded robes. His back was straight, his eyes half closed, his presence as still as a lake at dawn. This was Yamamoto. When the chanting ended and the others left, Christopher stayed behind, almost without knowing why. The monk turned his head slightly. "Why do you linger, samurai?" Yamamoto asked. Christopher hesitated. He didn't know how to speak of shame, so he spoke of strength instead. "My strikes are slower," he said. "My body feels heavy. My temper controls me. I drink too much. I gamble too much. And yet every time I swear I'll change, it lasts only a few days. Then I return to who I was." Yamamoto listened silently, fingers resting lightly on his knees. When Christopher finished, he expected a lecture about discipline, honor, willpower. Instead, the monk asked a simple question. "How many years have you lived like this?" Christopher frowned. 10 years, perhaps more. "And how many days do you give yourself to change it?" "A few days, a week sometimes, at most a month." The monk nodded gently. "You have been at war with yourself for 10 years, and you expect to win that war in 10 days. He shook his head. "That is not discipline, samurai. That is arrogance." The words landed on Christopher's chest like a stone. "Very well," Christopher said. "Then teach me the right way. I will train from sunrise to sunset. I will give up sake. I will change everything at once." Yamamoto smiled, a small smile that made Christopher feel like a child. "No," the monk replied. "I will ask you to change so little that your pride will be insulted." He reached for a small wooden ladle beside him, used for water offerings. "From tomorrow," he said, "when you wake up, before you shout at anyone, before you drink anything, before you even touch your sword, you will drink 1 ladle of fresh water, slowly, with both hands, and you will do it every single morning." Christopher blinked. "That's it?" he asked. "I told you I am drowning in bad habits, and you give me water?" Yamamoto's eyes shone. "Yes, because you do not need a great victory. You need one kept promise." Christopher laughed bitterly. "A ladle of water will not make me a better samurai." "No," Yamamoto said. "It will make you a man who can trust his own word. Without that, no sword technique in the world will save you." The samurai wanted to argue, but in his heart he knew he had broken so many promises to himself that his own mind no longer believed his words. He lowered his head. "Fine," he said. "I will drink your water." "Very well," Christopher said. "Then teach me the right way. I will train from sunrise to sunset. I will give up sake. I will change everything at once." Yamamoto smiled, a small smile that made Christopher feel like a child. "No," the monk replied. "I will ask you to change so little that your pride will be insulted." He reached for a small wooden ladle beside him, used for water offerings. "From tomorrow," he said, "when you wake up, before you shout at anyone, before you drink anything, before you even touch your sword, you will drink 1 ladle of fresh water, slowly, with both hands, and you will do it every single morning." Christopher blinked. "That's it?" he asked. "I told you I am drowning in bad habits, and you give me water?" Yamamoto's eyes shone. "Yes, because you do not need a great victory. You need one kept promise." Christopher laughed bitterly. "A ladle of water will not make me a better samurai." "No," Yamamoto said. "It will make you a man who can trust his own word. Without that, no sword technique in the world will save you." The samurai wanted to argue, but in his heart he knew he had broken so many promises to himself that his own mind no longer believed his words. He lowered his head. "Fine," he said. "I will drink your water." "Keep the water," Yamamoto said. "But now add one more thing. When you eat your evening meal, serve yourself only half of what you usually take. You may take more after you wait the length of 50 breaths. But first, half." Christopher frowned. "That is nothing," he said. "I am a warrior. I need strength." The monk's voice remained calm. "You are not starving. You are soft. There is a difference. You eat until your body is heavy, your mind dull, your anger quick. You eat past your need, into your fear. This practice is called Hara Hachi Bu. Eat until you're only 80% full. Leave a little space in your stomach and in your life. The first night was torture. Christopher finished half a bowl of rice, half a grilled fish, and sat staring at the pot. His stomach growled. His mind shouted, "You are hungry. You are being weak. Take more." He began to count his breaths as the monk had taught him. 10, 20, 30. By the time he reached 50, his hunger dulled. Not because he was empty, but because he finally realized he had never been truly hungry at all. He was just used to excess. For days, the pattern repeated. Greed screamed, breath answered. Slowly, his body began to feel lighter at night. He no longer collapsed by the hearth, too full to move. He began to walk a little around the courtyard after dinner. At first, just a few steps, then a slow circle, then 2. No one told him to. His body simply asked for movement. When a month passed, Christopher returned to the temple. Yamamoto observed him with quiet attention. "You are standing differently," the monk said. Christopher realized it was true. His shoulders felt less heavy, his eyes less clouded. "I have lost some weight," he admitted. "But more than that, I feel less like a prisoner inside my own body." The monk nodded. "You have opened the second gate," he said. "Now, one more step. After your morning water, you will walk from your house gate to the little shrine at the end of your street and back. Every day, rain or sun, tired or not." Christopher laughed. "That shrine is only a short distance away. That is not training. That is an old man's stroll." Yamamoto chuckled softly. "Your pride screams for big change," he said, "but your future is built from small steps. You are not training your legs yet. You are training your identity. You will become a man who moves even when he doesn't feel like it." The first morning, Christopher walked to the shrine alone. The air was crisp, the sky pale. He passed neighbors he had never truly seen. An old woman sweeping, a boy chasing a dog, a shopkeeper rolling up the shutters of his stall. At the shrine, he bowed once, turned, and walked back. It took only a few minutes. On the third day, as he tied his sandals, his son appeared again. "Father, where are you going?" "To the shrine," Christopher said. "Can I come?" The samurai hesitated, then nodded. They walked in silence. The boy's small hand slipped into his. The world was still half asleep. Houses, trees, distant crows. At the shrine, the boy copied his father's bow, tiny body bending forward. "Can we do this every morning?" the child asked. Christopher swallowed. "Yes," he said quietly, "every morning." Days added themselves silently like beads on a string. Water at dawn, half a meal at dusk, a short walk twice a day. One morning, as he climbed the old mountain steps again to see Yamamoto, he realized something startling. He was less out of breath. The steps were the same. The climb was the same. But he was not. Inside the hall, Yamamoto listened to his report, then asked, "Tell me, samurai, why are you doing all this?" "To become strong again," Christopher answered. The monk shook his head. "That is a surface answer. Why do you truly wish to change?" Christopher thought of his son's hand in his, of his wife's tired eyes, of the boy who no longer ran to the gate. He took a slow breath. "I want to live long enough to see my son become a man," he said. "I want my wife to see me as more than a drunk who comes home late. I want to be worthy of the armor I wear." Yamamoto's gaze deepened. "That," the monk said, is your Ikigai, your reason for waking up. Not glory, not fear, but love. When you forget why you walk, you will stop walking. When you remember, no mountain will be too steep. Seasons turned, cherry blossoms fell and returned, snow visited the roofs and melted away. Christopher stumbled many times. There were nights when stress tore at his mind and he drank too much again. There were gambling games where he stayed out too late. There were days when he skipped the walk to the shrine and felt the old shame rise. Each time his mind whispered, "You see, you haven't changed. You are still the same." One winter evening, after a particularly bad night of drinking, Christopher dragged himself up the mountain, eyes hollow. Yamamoto received him with the same stillness. "I have failed," Christopher said. "I shouted at my wife. I broke a cup. I drank until I couldn't stand. All this time, and I am still that man." Yamamoto asked only one question. "Did you drink your water this morning?" Christopher paused. "Yes," he said. "Barely, but I did." "Did you walk to the shrine?" "Yes, slowly, head down, but I did." The monk smiled. "Then you did not fail," he said. "You stumbled." He leaned slightly forward. "There is a path the Japanese call Wabi-Sabi, the beauty of imperfection, of things worn, cracked, but still used with care. You want your change to be perfect, no mistakes, no falls, a straight line upward. That is not life. A perfect bowl is easily broken. A cracked bowl that is cherished can last a lifetime." He lifted his hand. "Listen well, samurai. You will fall again. You will shout again. You may drink again. Real change is not about never falling. It is about who you become after you stand up." Christopher felt something loosen in his chest. Not his discipline, but his hatred for himself. For the first time, he saw his journey as a path, not a test he had already failed. Time moved. His armor, once tight, began to hang looser around his waist. He could climb the mountain steps without stopping. His sword practice, which he had once avoided, became a joy again. His son grew taller and now ran with him to the shrine, sometimes racing him back home. His wife watched him quietly, as if afraid that any sudden movement would break this new version of him. One night, as they sat by the lamp, she said softly, "You come home earlier now." "I am trying," he answered. She looked at him. "No," she said, "you're not trying. You are becoming." Years later, Christopher stood once more in Yamamoto's presence. The monk's hair was whiter, his skin more lined, but his eyes were as sharp as ever. "Tell me," the monk asked, "when was the last time you truly thought about giving up?" Christopher searched his memory. He remembered temptation, tiredness, small rebellions, but the thought of leaving the path entirely? He could not recall. "I don't know," he said. "It has been a long time." Yamamoto nodded. "That is because your actions are no longer a struggle," he said. "They are your identity. You are not a drunk man trying not to drink. You are a man who keeps his word. You're not a lazy man forcing himself to move. You're a man who walks." He drew 5 invisible circles in the air with his finger. "These years, you have walked through 5 gates. Ikigai, your reason. Kaizen, your tiny steps. Hara Hachi Bu, your moderation. Wabi-Sabi, your acceptance of imperfection. And one more, Gambaru." Christopher repeated the last word quietly. "Gambaru," Yamamoto said, "is the spirit of enduring, of doing what you can even when your strength is small. On your worst days, you still drank water, you still walked a little, you still tried to speak more gently. That is Gambaru. Heroism is not a shout. It is a whisper, repeated 1,000 times. When age had settled into both their bones, the monk finally retired to a small hermitage. On the day they parted, Christopher bowed deeply. "You saved my life," he said. Yamamoto shook his head. "I only handed you a ladle," he replied. "You drank the water yourself." In Christopher's house, many years later, two paintings hung side by side. In the first, a younger version of him sat in an inn, armor open, sack cup in hand, eyes empty. In the second, an older Christopher knelt in the courtyard at dawn, his son, now a young man, practicing sword strikes beside him, his wife watching them from the doorway, the sky slowly brightening. One evening, his now grown son said, "Father, when I was small, I remember you used to shout a lot. I was afraid sometimes. But I also remember waking every morning and seeing you drink water at the well. I remember you walking to the shrine in the rain. I remember you never stopped. When I think about discipline, I think about that." Christopher felt tears touch his eyes. He realized then that his greatest legacy was not the battles he had fought, nor the enemies he had cut down, nor the scars on his body. It was that he had proven quietly and stubbornly that a man can change, one tiny promise at a time. You have listened to the story of Christopher, the samurai. Maybe you are not a warrior. Maybe you do not wear armor or carry a sword, but you fight battles no one sees. The battle against your own excuses, your own temper, your own habits. You do not lack knowledge. You already know what you should do. Eat better, move more, speak kinder, focus deeper. Like the samurai, you are not losing because you are weak. You are losing because you are trying to win a 10-year war in 10 days. So now, instead of asking yourself for a miracle, ask yourself the question that changed Christopher's life. What is the smallest promise I can keep every day? Not the biggest, the smallest. A glass of water when you wake up. 1 minute of silence to breathe. 10 steps outside your door. Writing 1 sentence in a notebook. Reading 1 page of a book. So small your pride will say, "This is useless." So small your excuses will have no place to hide. Keep that promise for 14 days. No negotiation, no drama. Just quiet Gambaru. Endurance. At the end of those days, you will not have a completely new life. You will have something more powerful. Proof that you can trust your own word. And once you know that, you can build anything. Your own path of Kaizen, your own rhythm of Hara Hachi Bu, your own acceptance through Wabi-Sabi, your own reason, your Ikigai. The mountain will still be high. The steps will still be many. But with each small promise you keep, you are no longer a prisoner at the bottom. You are a climber. And one day, without noticing exactly when it happened, you will stand on a quiet height, look back at the path you walked, and realize you did not change in one great moment. You changed in 1,000 small steps no one saw, but you